Ichigo Awakens by Talacha, Chapter 47. Progression forward. Karakura outskirts. The twins ran through the remains of the forest, cut, bruised, and beaten from the battle with other members of the 15th squad. In the instant they began to fight, it was over. The swarms of the hollows were wiped out in storms and torrents of light, fire, and energy. The Rancor themselves suffocated under the pressure of the captain, leaving them helpless against their foes, just like against that orange-haired lieutenant that came for Toshiro. There was nothing they could do against the other members of the squad. They were thoroughly crushed. Damn it! Yang yelled as they stopped. Yin almost fell as she kept losing blood from the hole in her side. The red twin ripped her vest to use as an impromptu bandage for her sister, hoping to stanch the bleeding. Then she froze, suddenly feeling a disturbance in the air. Somehow she knew her master lost the Owen and was now dead. This whole thing was a trap, and they fell for it. Now here she was, losing everything all over again, rejected by Lord Eisen for being a weak Ajikisa Rancor, with only herself and her sister to rely on, only to find their new master in Kusaka. He gave them strength and purpose. He attained godly power, and now he's gone. And if she can't escape the Huecomundo, then she'll lose her sister too, and she'll be all alone in the entire world. Damn it! Damn that Soul Reaper! She cried out, tears pouring from her eyes, as fate seemed to condemn them for merely being in the world. She felt a hand brush against the tears, calming her down as she saw her blue twin. Yin was smiling through the pain and exhaustion as she cupped her sister's cheek. "Don't worry," she said quietly, holding on to the remains of her strength. We'll always have each other." She smiled, coaxing one out of her teary-eyed sister as she hopped to bask in the sense of hope that came back, only for it to soon die. "I almost feel bad for ruining this." They heard a cruel voice call out, looking to see a brown-haired girl with a white beret wearing a sadistic smile, sitting on a branch in the tree above them. "But I doubt you'll be missed for what you did." She held up her arm and flicked her wrist, sending down a couple balls of reishi. Yang pulled her sister out of the way and jumped back, nearly dodging the ball as it sunk into the ground in front of her. "Bye-bye, Hollows." The girl sneered as the ground exploded, covering them both in a wave of fire and debris. "And that's that," Bambita said with cheer as she jumped out of the tree. Finding no trace of the two Rancor they saw with the rogue Shinigami, they believed that was Ichigo's target. "Damn it, Bambi, we needed evidence," she heard her fellow female Sternritter yell at her. She turned to see Basby and Candace glare at her for completely destroying the targets. "Oh, come on," she groaned, annoyed with her colleagues. "Candy, you were wasting your time with your freaking makeup, and Basby was afraid to burn down the forest," she yelled in her defense. "Besides, you heard Ichigo. Some jackasses was going to destroy space-time, and they were helping him. They deserved it." "Both of you, shut up," Basby groaned, annoyed by the two friends and their constant bickering. "When things settle, they'll come to us. We can make our offers then," he said, making them shut up. The Quincy never noticed the closing tear in the air. Huecomundo, Forest of Menosa. Yang barely managed to get herself and Yin to safety, tearing an imperfect and very risky garganta at the very same instant the explosion happened. They drifted for hours until finally ending up back in the land of the Hollows. Just barely after exiting into the dead forest, they collapsed, feeling the last of their life leave. The final sound they heard were the hungry cry of the Hollows. "Please, anyone, help!" She managed to whisper as her eyes shut, certain that she and her sister were going to die. The only one to hear her plea was the figure cloaked in fur and hollow mask, and the one he wore on his face, looking like a gazelle. Karakura Hospital Underground Training Hall. The cold, lifeless room was filled with the loud hums and screeches of the vibrating reishi arrows and blaze created by the Quincy pair. Ryuken was continued to train his son and pushed him to the limits. The ambient reishi in the silver room was next to non-existent, and Uryu had only one objective: dodge. He is certainly improving. Ryuken thought that as he continued to chase his son with the arrows, but not fast enough. Not with those Stenletter in the city. He knew the special power of the of Yoba chosen elites, the power of those with the shift, the heat and the explode, and the thunder, all powerful abilities granted by those with the soul carved letter, the ace of many of Yoba's slaves. Uryu needed to have a greater mastery over Reishi manipulation to fight on par with them, but even then he feared it would not be enough against certain shrifts. He forgot to control his own strength and shot an arrow through Uryu's leg, making the boy stumble and collapse to the ground. Uryu! King cried out as she restored the ambient Reishi to normal level and ran to her precious child. Uryu, are you alright? I'm fine, Mom, Uryu said through gritted teeth. The arrow dispelled from his leg as the parents got around to patch up their son. I guess I need to work harder, right, Father? Uryu chuckled out, trying to liven up the situation. Kane merely glared at her husband for hurting their son. Ryukin, he needs a break, she said adamantly. You've been doing this non-stop for 2 days, and you're being much harder than when he crippled his powers. Would you try to say something, but his father started before he could. I know, but we can't afford that, he said, berating himself as he defended his stance. Yoba already sent his spies, and they'll try to take him and Ichigo by force if they can't convince them. Uryu tried again, but his mother already had her rebuttal. He can't defend himself. He's dead on his feet, exhausted, she returned heatedly. Screw it, the archer thought as his parents began to argue in earnest. He brought his fingers to his mouth and loosed an ear-splitting whistle, getting the desired result of shutting up his parents. Thank you, firstly, Mother. I appreciate the concern, but Father's right. Time is running out. I need to get as strong as I can, as fast as I can. He then turned to his father and used common medical knowledge. And Father, you know, constantly pushing me like this will have the opposite effect. I need some time to rest and recover, and don't worry about the other Quincy. Ichigo and I already have an idea on what to do with them, he said with an evil smirk as he thought over their simple but effective plan. Uno apartment. Sora watched his sister sitting in the lotus position and meditating in a stance, balancing her inner self and gaining full control on her emotions. The main key to utilizing contract spirits. The Shunshurika were easy for her to practice with, as they only went to someone with a certain purity and kindness. Infinitely powerful, but hard to fully utilize because of the constraints of emotional ties. All she really needed was the strength, the will to fight back, and she'd be nigh unstoppable. Sora knew that and promised to help her have the strength to fight back. All right, Orihime, time for the first step of the onmyoji, he said, snapping her out of the meditation stance. He sat in front of his sister as she watched him with full attentiveness. Contracting spirits is a rather difficult task. In order to do this, you must show your resolve to the spirit you're creating the contract with. They can issue any number of tests to see that resolve, either through combat, a philosophical question, or illusions. If you pass the test, you share with them a fragment of your soul, and they become bound to you. Mostly their strength become reliant on the amount of spiritual power they use from you. The white serpent he summoned earlier then revealed himself appeared and coiled around his body. The more you can give, the stronger they become, he explained as Hebi went from a white python with horns and grew until the apartment became claustrophobic. However, that is a dangerous line because not all spirits are amicable. You must build your bond with them and see them as your partners. The serpent faded from the physical world as he finished. Remove your harpings and let's start with your constraints and let's start with your constraining the Shunshurika. Okay, she said as was requested while she slowly waved his hand over the pins. The small script slowly disappearing. Flowers of the Heavenly Princess, the petals that reject events, attacks, and enemies. You are freed from your servants of this human master, Sora chanted, as a paper tag manifested in front of Orihime. On it was a 6-petaled flower, with each one being a different color that signified the Shunshurika. Now concentrate your soul into your hand and call them out. Following her brother's command, she did so and summoned out the 6 fairies. Flowers of the Heavenly, she started an incantation for the contract before she was interrupted. We accept. The Shunos said with a smile. The other spirits nodded in agreement. The siblings felt a sweat drop at the disregard of normal ceremony these contracts were supposed to be following. Orihime always passed our test, always passed her test when we first manifested to fight the hollow at school, and from there she's only proved herself more and more. Tsubaki chimed in. I was worried she would just be a pushover, but the fear was unbounded. He said, looking at the unburdened hair, at the auburn hair girl with pride. We of the Shushunrika accept this contract. They said as one before disappearing onto their hairpins. With the contract script returning, there was a pause before the brother and sister as they processed what occurred. Well, Orihime said as she got up, that was easy, then collapsed from the exhaustion from having the 6 spirits bound to her personally. Yeah, that happened to me too. Sora sighed, feeling a little jealous of her sisters passing this test so easily, and she's already got some of the best spirits too. With Tatsuki. Ha! The fire-wielding martial artist yelled out as she practiced her forms. She didn't want to say it, but the encounter with the Rancor rattled her. The hollows she first encountered, they weren't human anymore, and she had her friends, the Soul Reapers. That became a game of combat hide and seek, and no one was trying to kill the other, except Aizen. But these are Rancor. They weren't animals. There wasn't any stopping out of consciousness. Now it was kill or be killed. She was fighting someone that wanted to kill her, that threw her off her game and put her on the receiving end before she got her head out of her ass. What if she came across another Rancor like the first 2 that came to scout the area? Ichigo said that the strongest hollow he knew became the 4th ranked Rancor, and she was never more afraid in her life when she saw the piercing green-eyed stare. Like everything before him was nothing but trash. She had to get stronger, needed to get stronger. Looks like you're trying to push yourself, she heard her teacher say, looking over to a tree branch to find Yoruichi in human form just watching her. Beside her were 2 short swords, a wakizashi with a simple round guard, and was otherwise unimpressed, and a kodachi with a regular guard. Don't you know the concept of trying too hard? Yeah, putting forth too much effort that it becomes counterproductive instead of helpful, Tatsuki replied, relaxing and catching her breath. She was a stubborn girl, but not stubborn enough to discount the advice of her teacher. What were you doing these past months? Yoruichi sighed tiredly. Dealing with my relatives, some were okay with me returning, others were ecstatic, but a good number were still pissed at me defying traditions, she explained as she grabbed the 2 swords and jumped down towards her fiery disciple. But it wasn't all reunions and trying to not punch a bunch of old people in the face. I was thinking about your next lesson. She threw the unimpressive wakizashi to Tatsuki, who caught it with ease. I was thinking of your next lesson. It should be swordplay. Tatsuki looked at Yoruichi and the sword in her hand with evident confusion on her face. But Sensei, I've never seen you with a sword. You're a martial artist, Tatsuki said, trying to understand the logic in this new lesson. I was always the leader of the Onmitsu Kido, the black ops of the society, and captain of the 2nd squad, Yoruichi explained to her student. Zanjutsu was one of the required fields of being of Shinigami. I eventually got so good with my martial arts that I didn't need it, especially since I had over a century of practice. Had to leave it behind when we had to go into exile, she said, reminiscing on a dark day in her and her friend's life. You should have kept my zanpakuto for safekeeping until I returned. She unsheathed her sword blade and held it in a reverse grip. Now I'm going to teach you how to fight with the blade, so you will learn how to adapt and fight opponents with swords. Tatsuki nodded and unsheathed her new sword. That is an Asuichi, a black zanpakuto. The more you use it, the more it will adapt to a weapon fitting for you. So let's see what becomes of it, Yoruichi said with a smirk as she began Tatsuki's new lessons. Las noches, Aizen studied. Aizen tapped his fingers on his desk, watching the full Katsuki died because of his jealousy and madness. Both terrible traits if one wanted to accomplish a plan as lofty as his. He'll even admit to playing with the idea of stealing the Owen, but even he knew it would be better than to mess with something like that. Creating a tool to break down the barriers of limitlessness was one thing, but manipulating time and space came with a heavier price than he was willing to abuse. The temptation would be too great, and the eventful cost would be too much. Sure, he'd have the chance to kill Ichigo, but some innate pride in the boy's progress stopped that. The one perfect culmination of his works that he needed to copy onto himself. So, you just left it at that? Jin asked, coming into the study and avoiding some discarded mask fragments, clothes, and around cars and pactos. You need a mini rebellion and just you had a mini rebellion and just fed them to the Hokugyu. What about the Baragan? Aizen let out an amused chuckle as he thought about the Rancor under his commands. Baragan is patient and will wait until society is beaten before trying to rebel. Aizen explained, watching Ichigo battle with Kusaka and his forces. Patrons and his cronies didn't even wait for that. They wouldn't be able to get me any new data against Kurosaki and his squad, but they did become useful in beating the Hokugyu, he said, prompting Jin to glance at the shifting black sphere. How's training the loyal Rancor coming along? Grimjaw is making some real progress. Jin told his hidden enemy, wishing he could run him through with his Bankai. The various Frostion are improving as well. The rest of the spot might make some headway if they actually trained with each other, but they still kind of hate one another. Aizen hummed as he continued his plotting, waiting for the chance to make his move. Ichigo would pay for humiliating him, but he needed to be careful with that. His lone scar from their fight still burned on his chest. Soon, Kurosaki, he thought, feeling the burning sensation spreading slightly. Soon. Soul Society Division 1 training grounds. Yamamoto was enjoying a small respite of peace with his two oldest pupils, Ugitake and Kyoraku, with Urahara joining them for tea, all while watching his current disciple spar with his Fullbringer friend. The two were exchanging blows, testing their strength, speed, and skill in the martial arts. The ancient dragon believed in a firm foundation to build on, so Ichigo had to fully master his basics before moving on to more complicated movesets. While Urahara was gathering data on the two according to the other Fullbringers, Chad reached his peak evolving with his arm Fullbringer, and they had to check how much he improved. Ichigo was in a state of constant growth as he needed all the data they could do with his development. Hey, shouldn't we call out to the two friends? Lighten up, but you can afford to take it easy for now, he advised Ichigo, and Chad were already dripping in sweat after just a few minutes of sparring. Take a little break, you two, making me feel old. He does have a point. Ukitake chuckled slightly, pouring himself another cup. Take a moment to breathe and relax. You heard your seniors, Yamamoto said with a rare smile, actually joking with his students. Take your break. Ichigo and Chad looked at each other before going to join some of the longest serving captains of the Gotai. Chad shared a drink with Kyoraku, while Ichigo had Ichigo make him a tea again. After he finished, Toshi came by. Ichigo, the young captain called out to the hybrid with a nod from his teacher. Ichigo went to meet the ice wielder. I just wanted to say thanks. Thanks for helping me out. Talking with you those past few days really helped. Hey, I understand, Ichigo told him. I'd feel conflicted if I was in your situation. Probably do the same thing too, and get into so much trouble. He mumbled the last part, not wanting to feel the old man's walking stick on his skull again. Anything else troubling you? I'd like to spar again, Hichigai said with a determined look in his eyes. I can't be solely reliant on my ice abilities in a fight. I need to practice my swordsmanship, he said as Ichigo pulled out his sword suddenly, forcing Hichigai to react desperately. And they've started again. Kyoraku sighed as Chad got up to join in. Really making me feel old. I can't complain, Urahara said with a smile. I'm getting so much data from this. Yamamoto merely smiled as he enjoyed the tea he had Ichigo make, finally tasting a balance and harmony in the warm drink. Now, for the harder lessons. Karakura Fun Field. I felt the two gymnast cousins wandered through the heaviest forest section of their old Quincy training grounds, almost upset that they were meeting any of the enemies in the place where they built happy memories with grandfather Soken. But they had to do this to see what they could learn from the other Quincy and keep things in their favor. There was no way they ever side with the Quincy Emperor unless it was to serve their mission to kill him. Ichigo let up his Reiatsu to act like a beacon, signaling that they were ready to meet their fellow Quincy. They waited until Bambita finally revealed herself. "About time you finally came to this meeting," she said, mildly annoyed. Her two companions and herself saw how powerful the two were, but being a senator gave her a measure of arrogant confidence. She was convinced that she could blow them away before they figured out her power. "Now let's all three of you together in front of us, or no deal," Uju demanded, back breaking her stride as he laid down their terms for the meeting. I'm not exactly keen on meeting other Quincy, especially ones that have been in hiding for who knows how long. Either all three of you are together in front of us, or we leave." There was a pause for a couple of seconds before the two began to turn and walk away. "Wait!" The Explode called out. "Fine, you win," she said as Basby and Candice appeared at her side. They planned to ambush them, but the two never dropped their guard. It was going to be a race between reaction times, and they didn't like their chances. "There, all three of us from the Randarak stand to return you to your proper family. But why are you hiding with the Shinigami?" she demanded, working with making them see the light, the objective of their mission. They committed genocide on our race, because they had to," Uryu said, completely stone-faced as he explained their stance. "When they killed Hollows, they purified for the cycle of reincarnation. When Quincy kill Hollows, they are completely destroyed. They may have been murderers and thugs, but it was our pride that led to that massacre. They forced us into an action when we would have been more powerful against the Hollows," Basby defended. "And even after the war, were the rest of the Quincy in this world, all killed by the society? All done by one man," Ichigo responded, knowing what Mayuri did, who was very careful in how he did it and played the right strings. "And all the Quincy happened to be mixed blood. So where are we? So where were we? So where were any of you or your almighty emperor and father?" he said, stunning the three Sternritter. "All dead by his command," Uri continued. "The Soul Reapers acted on orders to preserve the balance, but what about all the ones dead by your boss' own hands?" He saw flinching Basby, probably a victim of the Quincy Emperors himself. "He almost killed our mothers years ago, simply because they weren't pure Quincy to him. Don't talk to us about serving the Emperor when he cares about nothing but himself," Ichigo said as a sudden gust of wind came by, and the three active Quincy seemed to stagger a little. They brought their hands to their necks, almost like something was there. "Hope you understand. We have no love for His Majesty. Trust us, he's not worth it," Uryu said, talking like they were friends suddenly. "You might want to leave too." The cousins then left the three to their own devices, smirking as the plan seemed to work. Up in the higher parts of the forest canopy, a well-dressed but scarred individual was putting a bookmark in a book. "What a fascinating reader," as Tsukishima said, closing his new book, "Illustrated Guide to Soul Reapers, Future Dress-Up." After their honeymoon was cut short due to classified information, we decided to stop by the Swa's new meeting place, the normal meeting room that they used for storage. They still didn't remove all of Yachiru's candy or all of their spare. Not important. It was just a major scale down from their former glory. The only other person that was in the room was Rangiku with a magazine, making use of her break time, i.e. avoiding paperwork. Rukia thought that was a good idea after what she and her husband did last night. She was still limping from the activities, something Rukia noticed. "So, when should we expect the baby?" the busty lieutenant asked teasingly, making Rukia blush heavily. "Rangiku, now's not the time for us to even think about kids," Rukia protested, happy that she and a plentiful supply of birth control medication. "Besides, I'm a lieutenant. I can't just abandon that duty, especially in the midst of a war." Aw, Rangoku whined, and here I was hoping to play dress up dress up with my future, with what would it be, stepchild, or she said, not really knowing the link with future sister wives. And this chappy onsen looks so cute, she said, looking back at her catalog with a fox-like grin as curiosity gripped the married noble. Rukia caved and took a look, eyes sparkling at the cute baby outfit for her future child with Ichigo. Then a thought occurred to her. She's teasing me. She smiled as she figured out how she might turn it around. Well, I'm too busy to think about the kids, but you can do it if you want, she said, believing she got the job on the lazy land. Thanks for that, Rangoku cheered. I'll go looking for him now. Already got the dress and ring, she said before running off. Rukia blinked, her eyes in confusion. Did I just give her permission to be his next bride? Pacifying Nanwa, the current president of the Shinigami's Women Association, Lieutenant Nanwa Ise, was currently drowning her sorrows in the emergency chocolate stash of the former president. It just wasn't fair. She put up with Yashiro's childish antics for years, ensured that their club was full funded, tried to help morale by selling quality merchandise of the captains, whom the other Soul Reapers saw as celebrities. Everything was fine. When Yashiro became Saraki Sabakto full time, she had a chance, and then that Quincy ruined it all. She'll admit that abusing her authority in the budget committee was her fault, but Yachiro's crimes should not be her responsibility. Then she got Unohana's report with a gore-filled picture book that she for some reason likes. Most of her members are dating. The poster boy of the men association, and the club now has the same budget as every other one. As it stands, the usual way of getting things done was no longer an option. They couldn't force their ways anymore. Hello, Nanawa, she heard someone say. She looked to the door and saw the reason for their misfortune. Uryu Ishida, what do you want? She practically growled at him through a mouthful of chocolate. She held up what seemed like a book. I wanted to give you this as a present, he said calmly, almost hypnotically, as he walked towards her. Captain Kiriaku told me you were feeling stressed, so I thought I should give you this, since I'm probably the reason you're so stressed. Nanoa swallowed the mouthful of chocolate before snatching the book from his hand. I think I'll forgive you with just a single present. You think I'll forgive you with just a single present? She roared. You could have said no to joining the men's association, and everything would have turned out great. But no, you had to ruin everything I worked for with this club. She opened up the picture book and scrolled through the context. You think you can make it up? You think you can make it up to me with? She trailed off, seeing image after image of her with image of her captain in suggestive, almost X-rated scenes. Looks like you like the Sleeping Flowers book, Uryu teased, seeing a slight nosebleed form with a heavy blush. It's the chocolate. End of chapter 47.